Mrs. Johnston here for today's read aloud and science lesson. Today's story is going to be about Johnny Appleseed. Let's discuss what we remember about seeds, blossoms, or flowers and fruits. The life cycle of a plant begins with what part of the plant? Did you say seed? Great job if your response was seed. What is another word for blossom? Did you say flower? If you said flower, you have remembered the details of our previous read alouds. What do we call the special plant part that holds the seeds? Did you say fruit? Great job if your response or answered was fruit. What are some of the fruits that Polly talked about? Did you remember that Polly talked about apples, cherries, strawberries, and watermelon? Today you're going to hear a tall tale about a famous man named Johnny Appleseed who lived long ago. A tall tale is a humorous story that stretches the truth. Can you guess from his name what Johnny Appleseed's favorite fruit was? Did you say an apple was his favorite fruit? If you did, you either looked at the picture and saw the apple in his hand, or you remembered part of his name, Johnny Appleseeds, and realized that apple being in his last name was his favorite fruit. What is a humorous story that stretches the truth called? Did you remember from our introduction a tall tale? Something that stretches the truth is not completely true, but is not completely fiction. It exaggerates real life events. Listen carefully to find out why Johnny Appleseed is important. A long time ago, in the rolling hills, there lived a man called Johnny Appleseed. Johnny Appleseed did not have a home, but instead wandered across the country from Massachusetts to Pennsylvania to Ohio to Indiana to Illinois. Wander means to travel from place to place without knowing exactly where you are going next. Johnny wasn't born with the name Johnny Appleseed, but he got that name as he moved from one small town to the next. Listen to hear how Johnny got his name and why he became a hero to many people. A hero is a very brave person. Johnny was born in Massachusetts with the name John Chapman. When Johnny grew up, he decided to travel across the country. People could tell from Johnny's clothing that he was really very poor. His clothes were shabby, and he walked around barefoot, even in the winter. When something is shabby, it is very old and torn. To walk around barefoot means to walk around wearing nothing on your feet. His hat was so threadbare that you could see his hair beneath it. But despite his loneliness and poverty, Johnny had a brave heart. Even though Johnny was usually alone and very poor, he was happy and brave. He believed in the power of love. He loved all the people and all the animals he met along the way. In fact, Johnny often thought to himself that he loved all the people and all the animals in the world, even though he had never met them. The people Johnny met along the way enjoyed his company. They would often invite him to share in a simple meal. Johnny would accept the invitation with a smile. After the meal, he would take out the one possession he owned that was worth anything, his violin. Then he would play for the people who had been kind to him. Sometimes his music was happy, and sometimes it was sad. People loved to hear Johnny play. Whether his music was happy or sad, they said it soothed the soul and made them feel happier. Johnny lived most of his adult life this way. He wandered from place to place and survived as best he could. You might think Johnny left no mark upon the land, or no great memory of his existence once he had passed away. This means that you might think Johnny was not an important person and that people might forget about him. After all, how could he have, as he was just a poor old man who wandered from place to place? But Johnny did indeed leave something of himself behind, something quite extraordinary or amazing, and something that would give him the name Johnny Appleseed. You see, as he traveled across the country from town to town and from farm to farm, he collected apple seeds. The apple seeds came from the apples kind strangers gave him to eat along the way. Johnny saved the seeds and planted them in the rich earth. He planted them here, there, and everywhere. What happens when you plant seeds? Did you say that when you plant seeds, something grows? That is right, depending on the seed you plant. If it is a fruit or vegetable will grow. If it is a flower will grow. When winter time came and the earth was frozen, he saved the seeds in his pockets as if they were precious diamonds. Then, when springtime came again, he planted the seeds as he moved from place to place. Johnny hoped that one day orchards or places where fruit trees grow would eventually grow up from the rich soil and feed all the people and animals he loved so much. When something happens eventually, it does not happen right away, but happens after some time has passed. Johnny did this until his tired old body could plant no more. However, what Johnny hoped for came to pass. The apple seeds took root, and young saplings began to grow. As the years went by, beautiful apple trees dotted the landscape. Apple orchards appeared like oases on the wide opened prairies. An oasis is a nice and comfortable place to be. The apple trees made the land look very good and pleasant. Eventually, more and more people began to move west, wagons full of hope, Hopeful people rolled across the land. Later, the railroad brought even more hopeful people. All of these people were searching for new places to make a home. Incredibly, many people chose to build their homes near the apple trees and orchards that Johnny had planted. The sight of the trees gave people hope in a fruitful and prosperous future. Prosperous means successful. Farmhouses and then towns were built near the trees that Johnny had planted. He became a hero to all those who loved the apple trees as much as Johnny did, and they began to call John Chapman Johnny Appleseed. As the years went by, people harvested the apples from the trees Johnny had planted and stored them away for the winter months. They made pies, apple butter, and jam. Children played beneath the branches of the apple trees or sat in the cooling shade. These things happened because Johnny Appleseed had cared about all the people of the world, whether he knew them or not. Where did Johnny Appleseed get apple seeds for planting? Did you say that the apple seeds came from the apples that kind people gave him to eat? How did John Chapman get the nickname Johnny Appleseed? Did you say John Chapman was called Johnny Appleseed because he loved apple trees and planted apple seeds? What was the beginning of the life cycle of the trees planted by Johnny Appleseed? Was your response or your answer the beginning of the life cycle of the trees planted by Johnny Appleseed was the apple seed? How did the apple seeds that Johnny planted help people? Did you say or tell Mrs. Johnston that the seeds grew into trees that gave people hope for a fruitful and prosperous future? The trees also gave them food to eat, a cool place to rest, or a place to play. Those are all ways that the apple seeds that Johnny planted helped people. So, why is the story of Johnny Appleseed important? The story of Johnny Appleseed is important because he planted apple seeds to help other people, even though he didn't know them. He did something small that ended up helping many people. I hope you enjoyed our story of Johnny Appleseed and how his generosity helped many people in the future.